Yeah, I think you will have like a sign or something that you need to set.
Accept, yes, yes, accept. It is recording. So,
Okay.
Kindy, we are live here. We are recording for posterity.
Great. Thanks for
Okay.
inviting me, Brian.
So, we might as well we'll just do this the podcast. Okay. So, Kindy, very nice to meet you. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, thanks, Brian. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, for those who don't know me, my name's Kindy Kaur, and I'm in Nottingham in the UK. So for those of you, you might be familiar with Robin Hood or Sherwood Forest from the films, that area of the UK. And I've been practicing and teaching here for over 30 years. My background was I was a molecular biologist, so I have a science background, and I trained at the British School of Shiatsu in Nottingham in the UK originally. My first teacher was a lovely lady called Linda Sharples. That was in 1994, 93, 94, trying to remember. And then I moved on to the British School of Shiatsu in London and trained under Ray Ridolfi and many other teachers from the British School of Shiatsu. And I then took over the running of the school in Nottingham, the BSS, the British School of Shiatsu in Nottingham in 1998, and taught on the BSS teaching team at various schools around the country, as well as my own. My Shiatsu background, I trained in, well, we trained in Zen Shiatsu, five elements, traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. Um, Postgraduate, I also did some training with Cliff Andrews, with Pauline Sasaki, Sonia Morrisseau, Suzanne Yates, amongst others. And I also taught the advanced Shiatsu module at the University of Derby on their complementary therapies degree program. Um, and then since 2006, I've been working more deeply with Saul Goodman, who's the developer of Shiatsu Shintai, um, which is something I'll talk about later in more detail, but that's what I'm more focused on these days.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, you're going to come to Spain and give us a workshop on Shintai. So perhaps you could. You said it was invented by Saul Goodman. Um, just what does Shintai mean? What does the name mean?
So Shintai actually means core body or source body, and it it's an indicator that so Saul Goodman, he was one of the he's an American practitioner, teacher, and an innovator, I'd say. He lives in the USA, and he developed this over 40 years. He was an early pioneer, and he was one of the early wave of shiatsu practitioners and teachers in the West. He studied with Masunaga. He was a contemporary of Pauline Sasaki's, and he also influenced the British School of Shiatsu's curriculum as well. So I was familiar with his work through the BSS. Um, and Shintai, so Shintai means source body or core body, and it refers to the fact that we don't feel that we heal or fix or cure. We're connecting to the person's own healing intelligence, their own power. So empowering them to find their own healing alignment, their own wisdom. So it's a very empowering way of working.
Okay, so is Saul Goodman still going? Is he?
Yeah, he's alive and well and working in the States. He used to travel to Europe every year. So, and there was a range of schools throughout Europe and the UK and a school in the US. Um, called the International School of Shiatsu. He's now no longer running those schools, but he trained up various teachers in Europe. And he doesn't travel so much anymore. So I worked with him when he was traveling to Europe and coming to the UK. And then when he stopped coming to Europe, then I started to travel to the US and continued apprenticing with him. And now he doesn't travel anymore. He's very involved in light body work, which is part of the Shintai work as well, which I'll talk about later. And so yes, he's still going, alive and well, and still innovating and still evolving and still in touch.
Okay, great. So, what is it for you about Shintai which makes it special? You've followed him, and what?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to backtrack a bit because that will explain actually, I think, what it was that I was looking for. So let me just tell you my journey with Shiatsu because that will say how I came to Shintai. So basically, after I'd done my training and I was then invited to run the Nottingham branch of the Shiatsu school, the British School of Shiatsu, which is a journey in itself. You know, it wasn't something I was expecting to do, but I took on running the school, and for some years I was the director and principal of the Nottingham branch of the school. And you know, at the time, you know, after this time of crisis, what shiatsu gave me was this sense of wholeness, of coming home to myself. It was an anchor in times of uncertainty. So it was really although it helped on a health basis with several of my health issues. I think the biggest thing was that it was a journey of self-discovery, a journey of awakening. You know, I felt alive. It connected me with life, and it was a path of service as well. You know, that meaning, that connection, that purpose that I was searching for. And then I became a mother. So I've got two children, and something in me shifted. Something significant changed in me, as you can imagine. You know, it's another awakening. But my relationship with everything changed, and my relationship with shiatsu changed, and I no longer felt inspired. Um, I had lost my passion. My practice, I was finding it really hard to get my practice going again. And I was yearning for simplicity. I think I realized that I needed to go back to basics and I needed to reignite my connection with shiatsu. And the diagnosis, I was just too much in my head, you know, looking for what's wrong. There was something that didn't feel right for me now about being supposedly the expert. It felt very disempowering. And I felt like I wanted to work with people in a way to help them find their own power, their own route to wholeness, trust their ability to find their own answers. And I was also looking for another way of working with the energy system beyond the meridian system. You know, my background, I was also into yoga. I was interested in food as medicine. But I was just feeling limited and no longer inspired in the way that I was working. So I actually very nearly gave up shiatsu. And it was at around that time that I stopped running the school. I realized I couldn't run the school anymore. And Saul was coming to the UK, and I'd heard of him, but I didn't really know very much about him. And that was 2006. And I just enrolled in a course with him. You know, sometimes life just positions you, doesn't it? And this first course, it was actually an advanced module that was called Central Channel Release, part of the Shiatsu Shintai. And I didn't really know what I was going to, but it blew my mind and it reminded me why I loved Shiatsu. And there was just a quantum shift in my relationship with shiatsu and with healing and with myself. And it was almost like, my computer software had this upgrade in my operating system. That's what it felt like. It felt like just being plugged in again. And so what over time I've reflected, what was it? I think on one level, it was another awakening, basically. I plugged back in, it connected something in me that was really quite primal and reminded me what had originally kind of ignited in me in shiatsu. But there was a simplicity. The diagnosis, the diagnosis is purely, we're looking at motion and breath. Where does the breath go? Where does it not go? Where's there motion? Where's there no motion? So motion is life. When we stop moving, we're no longer alive. So that's the very basic aspect of the diagnosis, and I've really found that it's really effective. Symptoms change. There are very tangible results. And so, of course, my clients started coming back, and my practice grew quite quickly, actually. So that's what drew me to it. That was the journey. And then since then, I just carried on working with Saul. I continued to work with him every time he came to the UK, and then I continued to work with him in the US. And so, yeah, the rest is history. So that was from 2006. I carried on and did teacher training with him, and now I teach mainly postgraduate in the UK and in Europe.
Okay, so you're going to give us a workshop on Shintai. What will you be teaching us?
Well, let me just explain. I mean, Shintai is so it's called Shiatsu Shintai. We abbreviate it to Shintai. It's Shiatsu Shintai because it is a form of Shiatsu. It's an evolution of Shiatsu, of traditional Shiatsu, and also a synthesis of other bodywork modalities. So we do work with meridians, but also soft tissue structural alignment. So there's an influence from osteopathy, soft tissue osteopathy. Hara treatment is a big part of it, and those actually were originally parts of traditional shiatsu in Japan. And there's a lot of emphasis on Hara treatment, but also the structural elements, which for a while I think we lost in the West, and it's coming back again. But also working with the fascia, influences from craniosacral therapy, also subtle work, so subtle meninges contacts, working with the chakras, working with touch, but also with off-body work as well. Working with the light body, the energy body, and we also have exercises that we use to develop what we call our proprioceptive awareness. So developing our sensitivity to energy, and developing our sensitivity and connection to our higher wisdom. So that in a nutshell is the breadth of it. And what I really like about that is that depending on who I'm working with and depending on what they're presenting, I've got a range of tools to work with them. So I might use stronger techniques on somebody who's maybe kind of resonating at a slower frequency, who's more rigid, who's more stuck. But then with higher frequencies, we might work with the fascia, and people who are resonating at kind of higher vibrations still, we might use off-body work or chakras. And so I choose my tools according to who I'm working with. So each treatment is unique. And the philosophy behind it is we're focusing on the flow of the governing vessel and the conception vessel. So not as in the acupuncture terms when we think of conception vessel as a line up the front of the body and governing vessel as a line on the back of the body. We're not working so much with points, but more with the manifestations of governing vessel and conception vessel. So the manifestation of governing vessel is the spine. So we think of the spine is governing vessel. So whenever you're working in any way with the spine, you are also working with the flow of the governing vessel. The manifestation of conception vessel is the hara. So whenever you're working with the hara, you are also working with the flow of the conception vessel, and then we work up through the fascia of the chest and the throat as well. And we're also working with the central channel. So all of these are manifestations of governing vessel, conception vessel. And these channels are formed at conception. So they're the first channels that form in the embryo at conception when the egg and the sperm come together. And they become the parents of all the other meridians. So by focusing on the governing vessel and conception vessel, we are by proxy also treating all the other meridians. So, they say, if you want to treat the child, treat the parents. So we go back to the parents. And that flow of governing vessel, conception vessel is like an infinity sign. And within that is encoded our original blueprint for our development, our true nature, our life path. So it's our initial life force, our innate heritage. And over time, so the aim of Shintai really is to readdress that flow, to get that flow of GV-CV flowing again. And what happens over lifetime? We're hearing about trauma much more these days. Trauma patterns or stress patterns, that we call them in Shintai. Over time, our life force can become compressed, becomes distorted. This flow of governing vessel, conception vessel becomes distorted through compression. So that might be through various life experiences, trauma, social conditioning, diet, lifestyle, anything that creates stress in our system. If it's not resolved at the time, and often our body, it's very good at resolving stresses and coming back to homeostasis, coming back to balance. But if it's not resolved, the energetic patterns associated with that stress or that trauma become held in the body. They're held in the fascia and held in the deep fascia, and the deep fascia being the meninges around the brain and the spine. And these patterns, they keep us stuck. So basically, these energetic patterns are informing our system that stress is still happening, even though it's not happening anymore. That there's an energetic information being held in the tissues saying that's still happening. And so we respond to life as though that stress was still happening. Our perception of life is influenced by this inappropriate information in our systems. And so we respond through our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, and effectively we're still stuck in the past, or perhaps we're projecting into the future, my life will be better when. So with Shintai, we're aiming to restore that flow and that connection, that flow in the GV-CV, and that connection to the disconnected parts of ourselves, reclaiming the disconnected parts of ourselves, to become whole, to evolve and align with our true selves and our soul purpose. In other words, to come back to the present so we can respond more appropriately to the present situation. And of course, when our system is compressed and we're holding on to these old patterns. It takes a lot of energy to hold on to these old patterns. And then we create compensations to manage those patterns and those distortions. And so it becomes this 3D web that layers one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And so these compensations might be felt as physical conditions, pains, aches. It might be mental or emotional, depression, anxiety, spiritual. And our system is always trying to find our way back to alignment. That's our natural state. To find our way back to our life path, our true nature. And that's one of the things that Shintai I found really helps with the flow of governing vessel and conception vessel, using a variety of tools. We can, gradually release some of these patterns so that we can make that connection back with our authentic selves. So that's a long-winded version.
Very interesting. Do you work with the other extraordinary channels? You know, you said the central channel, and you work with the other ones, like
Not
and stuff like that?
specifically.
No.
No, not specifically. I have done in the past. I'm finding that working with governing vessel, conception vessel, and the central channel in a variety of ways actually addresses all the others because they're the parents. Governing vessel, conception vessel are the parents.
Okay, right. So you see Shintai as an evolution, as part of Shiatsu, as something that's an
Yeah,
evolution of Shiatsu.
yeah.
Do you think Shiatsu has evolved very, very much since it came to the West?
Loads, yes. I think it's quite different to how it was practiced in Japan originally. I think mainly because um, I think Masunaga had a big part to play in that because he brought in the psychological, emotional aspects. And I think that, this influence of contemporary ideas, isn't a bad thing. Keeping up to date, we're now talking about fascia, we're talking about polyvagal theory. People are also working with the chakras and off body, which I remember, 20, 30 years ago, we were saying, well, that's not shiatsu if we're working with chakras, if we're working off body, or um, that's not shiatsu. And I think it's just different ways of working with the energy system. I think that it's important to respect the lineage and to retain the essence of shiatsu. And I think of it like the roots and the trunk of the tree. The trunk is stable, the roots, that's the lineage, but the branches and the leaves, they can blossom with new life. And I think, that's what we're seeing. There's always a blossoming of new life as long as we keep the essence of the trunk and the roots stable. I think it needs to evolve with changing times, and I think it's really important to respect different styles.
Okay, so what do you think the future holds for Shiatsu? We're in very difficult times, and
Yeah,
um, you know we have a younger generation brought up with mobile phones and so on, and generally known as an anxious generation. I mean, is
yeah.
Shiatsu going to be useful for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see shiatsu taught in schools. It's so relevant right now. The world's changing. Um, I think, as we're becoming more and more of a digital uh, global society, digitization has its place, of course, but it's also isolating and disconnecting. So that touch, we're becoming more isolated from touch. The COVID times really exemplified that. And so we're really in need for touch and connection. And what better than something like shiatsu? Um, we're talking much more about somatic healing. We're talking more about trauma. We're becoming much more aware of that. So again, shiatsu is ideally placed to be dealing with trauma. I've been talking about Shintai's relationship with trauma and somatic health, but shiatsu in general, whatever style. And I think it's really important to treasure and value this healing art that we have. I think we can sometimes be overly humble about what this is that we do. It's a real treasure, and so I think the time is now for shiatsu. We've just got to get out there and do it.
I say I agree with you. So just to come back to the workshop, what can we expect to do in the workshop when you come to Spain next
Okay. Year? Well, thanks for inviting me. It's my first time to Malaga, so I'm really looking forward to coming and meeting you all. So I'll talk about the principles of Shintai. We'll look at how it'll be a very practical workshop, but we'll talk about the principles and the theory behind it, the concepts behind it, how to diagnose and treat the core potential of a person and activate their own healing abilities. I think that's really core. It's a very empowering way of working. So we're activating the healing power within them. I'll show you how to do that, and then co-creating with them. I will do some practical work on treating the governing vessel via the spine. As I said, the manifestation of the governing vessel is the spine, the conception vessel through the hara, and a simple way of working with the central channel. I must say that we don't work just the spine and the hara. From there, of course, there is the rest of the body as well, but the central parts are the spine and the hara, and from there we work the whole of the rest of the body as well. I'll talk about something that we call phases of motion. So this is our diagnosis, the motion, and how to recognize which technique to use for best effect. How to create the greatest effect with the least amount of effort by choosing the right way of working. I will talk about these trauma patterns, stress patterns that I mentioned earlier, and I'll also take you through some meditative practices. So we call them proprioceptive exercise or proprioceptive practice. It's part of the light body activation work that Saul's developed. And these are practices that also help to develop your energetic perception, and help to connect us to our higher wisdom, as well as a way of giving ourselves a Shintai treatment as well.
Okay, well, it sounds great. So we look forward very much to seeing you here in Malaga. It's the end of May. You'll be here. So anyone listening to this, please sign up. I mean, it sounds very interesting, and I'm sure we'll have a really great workshop with you. So it's the end of May next year. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thanks very much. It's been great to be here. Look forward to meeting you next year. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so it's still recording, but I mean that was half an hour.
Okay.
That was great. I mean, that would be great for the podcast. Okay. So excellent. I mean, I look forward to participating. I've got to translate all this as simultaneously.
And presumably your administrator will clip this and just take the bit.
Yes. I mean, I'll leave that to her. She's involved in some other meetings, so she's
that's fine.
Which is sort of normal these days. So that's great. So just to have you thought about, are you going to come here just for the workshop and then zoom off, or will you stay at that, around? What's your, have you got any
I will
plan?
probably go back. There's a possibility that I may be going over to Portugal at the beginning of June, at some point in June. So if it ends up being the beginning of June, I might just go from Malaga to Lisbon,
I see, right.
teaching there sometime in June, but we haven't set the date yet. So it's still a bit up in the air, but I'll let you know. I'll
Hmm.
know certainly in the new year. Do you need to know now?
No, 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 no. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm.
where we're doing the workshop, it's like a religious, it belongs to the church. They've set it up. They do lots of wedding receptions and all sorts of stuff there. They've got big.
Okay.
Been there once, and it's very central in Malaga, but it's sort of up on
Mm.
a hill and it just overlooks, and as though you're not in the city. It's quite
Lovely.
nice, and so it's
Lovely.
easy for people to get to.
Great.
I mean that
Lovely.
sometimes you can find very nice places and they're very hard to reach. So
Yeah.
Malaga's well connected. You flights into there and then you'll be quickly to get to the centre.
Mhm.
There's high speed trains as well, so we hope people won't have any great problem in getting there.
Great.
Um,
Great.
we'll be staying at the place. Um, and if you want to stay a day or do more, we can sort out somewhere for you to,
Okay.
you know. So it's up to you. You're
Okay.
welcome.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm just in the process of finalizing my schedule for next year. So once I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'll be able to confirm with you. At the moment, I'm thinking I'll probably just come and go straight back. If I decide to stay a day or two, then I might ask for a bit of advice on where to
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
to stay. But I'll let you know about that.
I mean, I live just down the coast from
Yeah.
Malaga, about 50 minutes drive.
Okay.
Um, no, I don't know, so different people around, so there will be
Yeah.
places for you to stay with
Okay.
no
Is
problem.
Malaga a nice place to stay and visit? And
Oh yes,
what would you
yes. Well,
say?
I
Mm.
mean, it's become a very, touristy place.
Yeah.
The center of Malaga is just like a tourist playground. It's the general pattern of tourist flats. No one can live there anymore because tourists are occupying the flats. So the
Yeah.
center of Malaga has been been made very nice, and it's just a very touristy place. You know.
Mm. Mm.
Around that, you've got what is Malaga as it was,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
normal people live. So it's all right. It's the weather's good. It's a great climate down here.
Lovely.
People are, Malagueños are pretty okay people, and people enjoy life. So
Great.
I think
Sounds
you'll
great.
enjoy your visit, really.
Yeah.
Um, and you've got a fair amount of now in Malaga. If you stay over a day or two, you've got lots of museums now. There's a lot of cultural things on offer. You've got a Picasso museum.
Mm.
You've got a Tyson museum. There's a whole range of things you can do if you
Mhm.
don't want to just be going
On the
on the
beach,
beach.
yes.
Uh,
Lovely.
and
Lovely.
then you just behind you've got all the sort of mountains areas. Where like Malaga is about an hour and a quarter from Granada. You've got the Sierra Nevada. Um, you've got a lot of nice places around,
Yeah.
coastal
Perfect.
and mountainous. So it's a
Well,
good,
depending on what my teaching schedule turns out to be, I might, take a few more days and make a
yeah,
holiday of it. But as I said, it just depends on how the rest of my teaching schedule
yeah.
pans out. So
And if you want to go over to Portugal, I imagine, I don't know, I've never gone from Malaga to where are you in Lisbon or
Lisbon,
in
this one
Lisbon?
will be Lisbon, yeah.
I mean, Malaga's well connected, by air to
Yeah.
as
So I
well.
could do that as well.
Uh,
Okay.
don't think
Okay.
that's a problem. Okay,
That's good to know.
so that's about it, really.
Can I have a recording of this, a link to a recording of this once it's done?
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
That'd be great.
I'll have to, talk to Andrea. I don't know
How she
how
does
this
it,
works
eventually
now. How
does
she
it.
does it.
Obviously, the clipped version, the one that will go out.
Yeah, basically, what you were talking and you were explaining everything. So that's what will go out. I'll just
Great.
how it
Great.
works. I don't know.
You're not sure whether it's just the audio that will go out or
I
whether
don't know.
it's the video. Okay.
I'm not very well up on Zoom things, but I think the podcast is just an audio.
Yeah. Okay.
They seem to be quite popular these days.
Yeah.
Podcasts.
Yeah.
We've been doing.
And they might choose. I mean, the other thing they can do is they can put the video on YouTube and send a link out to YouTube. So that you've got the video as well.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
Okay, well, I'll suggest we're on YouTube. And
Let them do the technical stuff. We just do our shiatsu.
Okay.
Well, it's been great to meet you, Brian. We'll
you.
be in touch, and I'll get an article over to you.
Okay.
Hopefully, it will be before Christmas.
Yeah, okay.
And
translated and
I've got all sorts on my website. I'll just pull something together from the various information that's on my website, and so that gives you something that you can send out.
Yeah, right. I mean, we just want to build up a bit of interest. It's like 30-year anniversary of the when we founded the association.
Yeah. Well, I feel really honoured actually to be invited for your 30th year anniversary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I think it was Jill who suggested your name, Jill Hall.
I don't think, is it Gillian Hall?
Yeah.
We haven't met. I know of her. We haven't met. So
but we had a few names came up, and yours was one of them, and we sort of put it around, and she said, "Oh no, she's very dynamic and very good," and so I thought she must know you, but no, she just said about you.
She may have seen other interviews that I've done. So
okay.
I do know of her though. So it'll be really nice to meet her and the rest of your community.
Okay, well, we look forward to it. Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Now, how do we stop?
Hello. I was just wait.